Yeah, I think that's, you know, another important thing to solve in life, you know, from a child growing up and learning how to defend yourself, basically, you know. And so I think like there's lots of different problems to solve in life, isn't there? You know, not just to defend yourself in life, is like I say, learning how to be a son to your mother, learning how to be a friend to, you know, and just learning how to be a social person with, you know, with people in general in the public, do you know what I mean? You know, just learning how to be a human being, which I think we're all trying to do in life, you know. Yeah.
Definitely.
So I've not experienced being old yet, you know, and I've not experienced everything in life yet. But I feel like I've, you know, experienced enough, you know what I mean, to say enough is enough, if you sort of mean, do you know what I mean? Where it's like, I mean, I've never really climbed a high mountain before, but I don't really want to.
Yeah.
I can imagine what it's like in a kind of way, not very good.
Yeah.
You can't really breathe or whatever, you know. And I think probably the view's going to be all murky anyway when you're up there. Do you know what I mean? You know, like foggy. You know, you're not going to see much, do you know what I mean, apart from just fog, probably. Do you know what I mean? But you can kind of imagine these things before you do them, like I say. You know, so you can sort of solve problems a little bit by thinking about them in a kind of way, you know, before they happen. You know, like, I don't know, like, you know, like, you know, if you go shopping and someone bumps into you, you know, like, and they're kind of like deliberately doing it, you feel, but you know, you just need to learn, you know, sort of how to deal with the situation quickly, I think, you know, in the best way. You know, you can turn it into an argument, can you? Do you know what I mean? And be there for an hour arguing, you know, or you can just sort of think, oh well, that person. Just think to yourself, this is what I do anyway, when I find rude people, which I have done in the past, you know, they come up to me and they're really quite rude, and you know, I think, well, that person's uneducated, basically, do you know what I mean? You've got to understand that one. You know, you've got to have an understanding that you're not rude. Other people are, you know, because they're not as educated as you are, if you sort of mean. I mean, you know, you don't need to sort of get rude back with them, you know. You know, just let people be rude to you, basically, you know, forgive them. I know it's hard, you know, but you're intelligent, do you know what I mean? And they're not, if you sort of saying, you know. That's what I feel anyway. You know, I don't feel like I get many problems today, you know. I mean, I used to when I was younger, I used to get bullied a little bit. Not much, but a little bit, you know. I don't anymore. I'm not scared of anyone, to be honest with you. You know, I'm not even scared of anyone killing me. Why be scared?
Yeah, you can't live your life in fear.
No. You know, and I used to have nightmares, and I don't anymore, do you know what I mean? And I think, what's to be scared of anyway? You know? What is there to be, you know, you could, you know, spiders, you can, you know, I quite love them, you know, so why be scared of nightmares in a kind of way? You know, they're only in your dreams anyway, you know, if you see what I'm saying, you know. So if you're dreaming of really ugly monsters in your head, whatever, they're in your head.
True.
You sort of mean. You know, I think about nature itself, when you think about it, sort of, when you look outside, there's flowers out there, there's trees. That's reality. You know, then it gets dark and the moon comes up, you know what I mean? That's reality. That's all that there is to it. That's what it is. You know, and here we are all dreaming about lots of different things, you know, we're dreaming that we can fly or whatever, you know. I mean, like say, sometimes when we dream, our dreams do come true, you know, like we can fly now, you know, they built airplanes today.
Yeah, of course.
Fly, you know, so
ideas become reality.
I mean, dreaming is a dream come true. That's the truth of it. Dreaming is a dream come true. You know.
Problem solving again. It goes back to problem solving. Man wants to be better and to you know, continually advance and grow, you know, technologically and otherwise, to try and make life easier and better and more convenient and, you know, more enjoyable, you know. Before we invented the aeroplane, you had to go by boat, and it's not everywhere you can get to by boat. So today, you can go by, you know, you can pretty much go to anywhere in the world on an aeroplane, almost anywhere, as long as they got as long as they got an airport and a runway. You know what I mean? You can go there. You know, so.
But I feel like you can go anywhere in the universe with your imagination.
In your mind, yeah.
You know. But it's, you know, like, experience it for real is different.
Yeah, for sure.
What I mean?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Like, so I mean, if you climbed up a mountain and really experienced it, and you saw the fog all the way around, whatever. But at least the next day and the day after that, and in your future as you're getting older, that will be a real dream, a reality dream that, you know, that happened. That you'll remember that, you know, you actually did, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Where sometimes I dream of being on top of a mountain. What's it like, do you know what I mean? You know, you can imagine it's sort of quite snowy and icy up there, do you know what I mean? And there's not much air to breathe, whatever. And you're struggling about up on top of a mountain, whatever, looking at the views, whatever. So you can quite imagine it in a kind of way, you know, but it's not that you've actually really done it, experienced it, you know what I mean? You know, so there is a bit of a difference in there, you know, but I don't think there's much of a difference, you know. I think, like, even, like, if you meet a girl and make love to her, right, one night, the day after it just becomes a dream. Everything's a dream, isn't it, really, when you think about it? Like, the future's a dream, the past becomes a dream, and the moment is like a dream. You know, if you ask me, it's all a dream. You know, and like, when you think, like, once it's over...
It makes me think of that nursery rhyme. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Yeah. Merry, merrily, 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 life is...
but a dream.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it is a dream when you think about it, and it's your dream when you think about it, you know, in a kind of way. It's, I mean, like, say you don't choose your parents, do you? Do you know what I mean? You know, but, like, say you're born, and then you're not really dreaming then. Do you know what I mean? Well, I don't think you're dreaming at the age of 1, let's put it that way. Do you know what I mean? It comes, you know, dreaming comes slowly in time as your imagination grows, basically. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know. And I think, really, to be honest with you, I think the more I think about it, the bigger your imagination is, which I know that me, or like I've said, that I've always been an artist, and I feel like every year my imagination is growing bigger and bigger. You know, I can dream more, just put it that way. My dreams have become more powerful.
Yeah.
You with me? And I think, like, if you're a good dreamer, you know, which I feel like you know, like next year, hopefully I'll be a better dreamer than I am today, in a kind of way, you know. And might be to come up with some better ideas than I am today, whatever. But I think, like, if you're a good dreamer, basically, you're going to be a problem solver as well.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, if you're able to use your... Yeah,
your experiences or your imagination to think about how you can solve problems.
Yeah, and your critical thinking. Yeah,
I feel like I can solve problems pretty quickly now in a kind of way, you know, because I suppose that I've had them so many times, you know, the same ones, that is, whatever. Yeah. I mean, like, if I was in the jungle right now, that'd be another problem to me, you know. It'd be, you know, I wouldn't have a fridge anymore, for one, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and I'd have to learn how, you know, sort of like survive somehow, you know, sort of, and have knowledge really sort of like of a tribesperson, which I didn't have, you know, do you know what I mean? To how to survive in the jungle, you know, and what to expect in a kind of way, you know. You know, so...
Life is like a maze, mate, innit?
It is.
Life is like a maze that we're all trying to navigate through until we get to the end, you know? And around each corner of this maze. There's different obstacles and different things we encounter and come across and experience and go through and survive. Yeah, and then we, by the time we get to the end, you know, it's, you know, it's
I mean,
that's our time, our calling.
So I've had quite a number of problems in my life, you know. Even my mum and dad divorcing was a big problem to me in a kind of way, you know, because I didn't really have the parents to, you know, sort of like other children had their parents, but I didn't, you know. So it's a bit of a problem, struggle for me to learn for myself in life, you know, without my parents being there for me all the time or whatever and to help me, you know. So that was a struggle, you know. But I think like without a struggle, you're not going to learn anything, you know. That's my thing. Like
you need a struggle
because my mum and dad split up. My mum was really, really young, you know, at the time, and she, you know, sort of when I was 3, 4, 5, I didn't see her at all. You know, she was somewhere else. You know, she was, you know, it's complicated, but she just couldn't be a mother for me after what she went through, whatever. And she went away, and so I didn't really have my mum or dad, do you know what I mean, there. You know, I did have an aunt, right, she did feed me and that, but they weren't really sort of like, you know, spending a lot of time like other children were at that time, if you sort of mean, you know, helping me to read and write, you know, do you know what I mean, I didn't have that, you know, so I feel like it was a struggle for me, you know. I mean, basically I had to teach myself how to read and write, do you know what I mean, really, sort of by the time I was age 30 years of age, and I did, you know. So I solved that problem on my own, do you know what I mean? That, you know, and I think like, really, if you want to, you know, some people get a lot of problems, don't they? You know, and I think the reason is because they don't tackle any problems, you know, they're just sort of too lazy or give up, and they pile up, you know, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They pile up and up.
Yeah.
And, yeah, and they, you know, and they get depressed because their problems are all building up and they don't know where they are, they get lost in a kind of way, you know.
Yeah.
And so I think there's all sorts of people out there. You know, some people are hoarders, aren't they? They collect stuff, you know, and that can be a problem really, really, because you sort of like, you're thinking about your stuff rather than yourself.
Well, I was going to say people that kind of do that kind of stuff, they have like an obsessive kind of like behaviour, don't they? If you see what I mean. You know, hoarding to me is like an obsessive type of behaviour as well, you know. Lots of people out there that have different types of obsessive types of behaviour, you know. I think hoarding is definitely one of them for sure, you know. People get obsessed with something, you know, they get addicted to, you know, hoarding shit that they don't need, you know. They believe in their mind that they need it, or it's going to be useful, or they utilise it, or they'll sell it and make a profit, or whatever. Someone will benefit from it, but then it just piles up and piles up, piles up and piles up, you know. And then sometimes, you know, sometimes people are living on their own even for long, you know, towards the latter stages of their life, and they end up becoming. Some people become hoarders, and then when they eventually do pass, their family are the ones that are left behind to deal with all that shit, you know, to, you know, have to try and tackle it, and you know, so, yeah, problem solving there, you know, we've all got to do it, you know, we've all got to figure out our journey in life, you know, what our path is, what our calling is, you know, what we, you know, you've got to try and find that out, you know, and try and head in that direction in life, you know. And I think, don't get me wrong, along the way there'll always be some kind of problems or some kind of obstacles or something along the way, you know, in pursuit of whatever you might, you know, believe your calling to be. Yeah, I think people need to figure out their calling, you know, what they feel, living in their truth, basically. You know, we've all got our own individual truth to live in, you know. And I think once you figure out your truth, you know, you've got to try to live in your truth. as much as possible, you know, to the utmost kind of thing, like, you know. And I think that in turn is what brings you real happiness, you know. So yeah.
And you think before you were born, there were no problems at all.
Yeah. Well, there were problems, but they weren't your problems, were they?
No.
Yeah.
You know,
There was someone else's problems.
Well, you know, you think that you know it's only when you're born, life becomes a problem because you've got to learn how to become independent in this world. Do you know what I mean? In this jungle, in a kind of way, you know. You think like this world's full of snakes, or all kinds of animals, you know, and spiders or whatever. And we've got to kind of live amongst all that in a kind of way, you know, and learn how to survive in it, you know. And drink clean water as well, you know, and make sure we don't get any diseases. There's another one, you know, we've got to, you know, make sure we're always clean and things, I think, you know. And, you know, that's another problem, you know, like every day, you know, you need a bath. You need to sleep every day, you know. So it's another problem you've got to solve, really. You know, yourself.
Yeah.
Basically, you've got to solve yourself. Basically, you know, you've got to feed yourself. You've got, you know, basically do everything for yourself in a kind of way. You know, every day. You know, and there's a lot. I think there's a lot of thinking to do. You know, to do in a kind of way in one day. One day. Do you know what I mean? You know, just bath, feed yourself 3 times a day. Go for a walk, you know, whatever, you know, there's a lot of things to do in one day, isn't there? When you think about it. You know, there's lots of, you know, you've got to clean your ears out maybe, you know, you know, sometimes, or, you know, we need looking after, and it's a big problem, isn't it, you know, and, I mean, if your mum's not doing it, or somebody's not doing it for you, you've got to do it yourself, you know.
Yeah.
Like I say, I mean, like, I'll keep bringing it up in the other episodes, but cooking, you know, if you can't cook, it's a bit of a problem, I think.
Ah, yeah,
you know?
for sure, yeah.
Big problem. You know, I think, you know, I mean, I'm really glad I can cook, you know, for myself. You know?
Yeah.
I can cook for other people too, do you know what I mean? I can cook for 15 people if I want to, do you know what I mean?
It's funny, I was working with a gentleman recently, and he's I don't know, he's a few years older than me, so he must be in his 30s, you know, late, you know, 30s or late 30s, whatever. And yeah, he was basically saying to me that he can't cook a thing. Pretty much all of his food was microwave. You know what I mean? Like he'd have cereal, obviously. You know, make cereal. You know, he'd have cereal. He said he could make a bit of toast or whatever, but he said he wouldn't cook anything. It was all microwave. Like, you know, all.
So
I just thought personally, I just couldn't imagine like living like that. I love cooking. I love, you know.
One, I like knowing what's in it.
Yeah.
The other thing I do, well, I like looking after myself, so I know that if I buy the food myself, I know what I'm putting in it, and it's going to be, you know, 100% whatever, you know, the best ingredients, basically.
Oh yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, but I think, like, you know, it is a big, you know, it solves a big problem if you can cook. Do you know what I mean? You know, the better you can cook, the better, really. You know, if you can cook a variety of things, the better, I think. You know?
Yeah.
But that don't matter really, you know. I mean, if you can cook, you know, yourself some good meals, whatever, if you learn how to do that, you know, thumbs up to you. You know, I think, you know, that's one problem you're talking about. You know, you don't have to get other people to do it for you, basically. Do you know what I mean? You know, and you know, washing yourself as well. You know, you don't want other people washing you. Do you know what I mean? You know.
Well, not unless you don't have a choice, of course.
You do when you're young, when your mum, you know.
Yeah, up to a certain age.
You expect your mum to do it for you, you know, when you're young, you know. I mean, if my mum didn't wash me or whatever when I was a little baby, I wouldn't be very happy.
Well, I'm not going to lie to you, that's one thing that I wish my mum at a young age, because from a young age I was kind of like, from very young, from like 4 or 5, I was, you know, already being told to go and kind of wash myself, if you see what I mean. And you know, when you're young, and you know you're used to someone doing it for you, and you're still really young, so you don't really fully, you know, you're still young, so you know you're not as aware as you are, and you know, I remember being young and going to wash myself, but as I got older I realised, like, you know, I wish someone had told me when I was young, you know, to, you know, use something to scrub my skin, and all these different things as you learn as you get older, like exfoliating and you know, making sure you use the right kind of soaps for your skin, because sometimes certain soaps might not always agree with some people's skin. It could be, you might dry your skin out, you know, and you know, and if, you know, you've got to make sure you moisturise and put some cream on your skin and stuff like this to protect your skin, especially during the winter. Otherwise, you can get dry and all these things, like, you know.
Right,
but I didn't have anyone telling me these things either. So like I remember like growing up, like obviously you slowly as you get older, you start to slowly understand all these things, like really looking after yourself. Like, I remember like growing up, like, starting using deodorant and all these different things that you start doing as you slowly start aging. Like when you get a certain age, like 9, 10 years old, and you really start like, you know, starting to like, you know, your hormones are starting to develop a little bit, you know, going into your early, you know, you're within a few years going to be a teenager, so, you know, so, yeah. I remember even to like, having to like, I wish too that when I was very young too, like she was more on top of me in terms of like, don't get me wrong, I soon figured it out myself from a very young age, thankfully. But in terms of like looking after your teeth and your oral health and all these things, like not only brushing your teeth, but making sure sometimes you're using the mouthwash, and you know, making sure you brush your tongue, and all these different things, like all these small little things, intricate little details that will benefit your life if once you know them and you can implement them into your life. But if you're not aware and you don't know them, especially as a young child, it's not until you get older that you can kind of, you figure it out, or someone tells you about it, or says, you know, this, you know, or kind of advises you, or you figure it out for yourself. Then you can implement it, can't you? But if no one tells you, then you're unaware, you're ignorant, you know. So I remember even growing up, and I'm like, I remember even growing up thinking, why has no one told me this? Like, you know, figuring out all these things for myself, and like implementing them into my life myself, like making sure I fully look after myself, and you know, take pride in that. And then I remember thinking, why has no one told me these things? You know, and being like kind of grateful and thankful that I kind of worked it out for myself. You know, because you know.
So they don't teach you these things at school either, do they?
Mm.